What's going on, everybody? We're back for episode number 33 of the Real Bodybuilding Podcast, and I'm with my man, Chris Aceto. How are you?
I'm relentless.
I knew something like that was coming.
I'm working in silence. That's my favorite saying that I read about, that people who are quote, up and coming say. They're saying working in silence
while they're posting a picture of themselves.
While they're posting 500 pictures all filtered of how they look.
Is this going to be a rant?
Nobody can work harder than me. I'm working in silence.
I have a feeling that this entire hour is just going to be you ranting about various social media problems.
No, I'm sarcastic. That's all.
Yeah, no.
No, I actually don't. I don't have a Facebook page that I've never been to my own. Fan does my Facebook stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't do anything. I've never, he just posts some pictures, social media, I'm not on Facebook.
Do you do your own Instagram?
Yep, but I don't follow anyone, and I don't read anything ever.
Is that smart? Is that smart, you think?
It's brilliant.
No, but I mean, because I've had this discussion with a few different people about reading comments and not reading comments, and some people say it's better just to not read comments and just post your own stuff and move on from it.
Yeah, I just post pictures of bodybuilders I help. So it's not really like my real life. It's just my, side life of bodybuilding. But I never comment. I never read. It's remarkably rare. The only time I read something is someone actually texts me.
Yeah.
Like someone say, "Hey, Chris, respond to my something on your Instagram."
Yeah.
Then I'll look at it.
It's funny you mentioned that. I was going to get into that a lot later in the conversation, but since you brought it up, what percentage of your life is bodybuilding? Because this podcast is about. When I bring people on, it's not usually about bodybuilding. I want to know more about the person. So that's kind of why I wanted to have you on.
Well, it's 102%, so there's nothing left.
I know how much you love percentages. So.
No, but getting back to add to the social media is if you're not involved in it, I mean, I have thick skin, but everyone has a spot that can, even if they have thick skin, everyone can get upset about something. So I would just rather not know. I'd like to play like oblivious to it all so that I can concentrate and have the energy that I need to do, in terms of what I want to do with bodybuilding or in bodybuilding, and then, what I want to do outside of bodybuilding.
Do you think athletes have that luxury? Because I feel like if you really want to be, if you really want to have a good fan base in bodybuilding, you have to interact with your people.
Yeah, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah,
because if without a doubt, the more you interact with people, the more people are going to follow you, and it may pay off monetarily somehow for you. Mm-hmm. But in terms of being just the best bodybuilder that you can be, it's a big distraction.
Yeah,
so,
I do agree.
I mean, you need to make money. I understand that, people. And they need to build the fan base, and that's extremely important too. But at the same time, it's a distraction. I mean, everything is a distraction by definition from something else.
Yeah.
Bodybuilding is a distraction from my family. My family is, or business is to some degree a distraction from my family. Yeah. So everything is a distraction from something else because you only have so much time, and so much more important than time. People talk about time because we all, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's focus and what you do at that time. So, I could kill myself. Last night I read the news for an hour, and I love to keep up on the news. I've always been like someone who wants to know, quote, what's going on.
Yeah.
Since I was a little kid, but last night I stayed up like an hour reading news, and I'm like, God, it's 1:30. Wasted an hour.
What's your go-to with the news? What do you like to read about in the news?
I read the New York Times every day. I've done that since I was in college.
That's a liberal newspaper, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say it's a liberal newspaper, but I'll read Wall Street Journal, which is a business newspaper, but it has an editorial board that's right of center. Mm-hmm. I don't read Breitbart News, and I don't,
What's wrong with Breitbart?
And I don't read the National Enquirer.
Yeah.
Which is ironically owned by,
the
owner of the Olympia.
Okay. So going back to what we were talking about earlier, what part of your life is because you spend a lot of time on bodybuilding. Like I've never seen a coach. Like I remember when we worked together, you were at the Olympia with Shawn and you were still texting me and I was in the middle of or messaging me back in email and I was in the middle of my off season and you were worried about how I was doing, or no, it wasn't my off season. It was like, I think I was like 10 weeks out from a show and you were concerned about how I was doing. And I said to you, just don't worry about it, man. You're at the Olympia with Shawn. Like we'll talk about it later. So bodybuilding obviously takes up a huge portion of your life, but it sounds like you have a lot of other things going on. So
it takes up. So
what's that?
Was there a follow?
Well, I was going to ask what's the other part of your life? Like what other things that do you have that kind of consume the rest of your life other than bodybuilding? Because I keep hearing about these things, but I don't know them.
Yeah. I mean, not obviously. I mean, going back to dedicated, I think you're making the point dedicated to the people you work with. I'm very dedicated to people I work with and people who work with me outside of bodybuilding and work. I'm very dedicated to them too, because I always say, I can't survive if the plumber is not there, the electrician's not there, the guy who sweeps hallways is not there. I cannot survive. I cannot. I can't run my stuff the way that I need to run my stuff. So everybody's important. That, I don't know what year that was. I was helping you. I think that was 17, but I can tell you 2018 Olympia, was it 17, 18? I was helping 3 guys from like Saudi. Yeah. And they were in my room. I didn't know this. Just like you told me that story, I don't remember like saying, oh yeah, checking in with you like, 10 weeks out and Shawn's doing the Olympia, but it was after prejudging and the 3 guys were in my room after their prejudging and Shawn came to the door. I didn't know, knock. And I said, oh God, who's this? I opened up the door. It's Shawn. I said, can you come back? And so that's just, can you come back? And that's Shawn. Shawn's like, yeah, sure. I mean, he's like 3 doors down. Yeah. And so these guys did whatever they did, it was like they were getting ready for the amateur Olympia. Yeah. And off they went. And then I called Shawn. I said, okay, come by. And they've told me that story at some point, thereafter. And I said, I did that. I said that. I told them to come back.
Well, it had to make them feel special. I mean, that's the potential Mr. Olympia, right?
Yeah. It was either make them feel special or like, let me finish my train of thought with them before I can think about something else. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the history of Chris Aceto? Because I know did you compete or just bodybuild for fun?
No, I competed. I mean,
how long did you compete for?
17 to like 21. Okay. Not a lot of contests.
Did you win any of them or?
I won my class at the Teenage USA. I won my class at the Collegiate Mr. America. I was second at the Collegiate Nationals in my class. So
why'd you stop?
Because I didn't have it was a distraction from what I really wanted to do, which was focus on like real life, like business essentially. Mm-hmm. It's, it's hard unless you can do something with bodybuilding and make money. Yeah. When you're a bodybuilder and you want to be the best, you have to give 102%. And if you give less than that, you're not going to, it's like a track in track and field when you see guys running 100 meters. Yeah. You have the guy outside of Usain Bolt, let's say, who smokes everyone, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th and 7th, they're like, this close to each other. Yeah. So you have to go to the nth degree in anything to be successful, but bodybuilding, of course, is unique on itself. You have to go to, unfortunately, the nth degree. And I didn't want to, my mind was always a business. I had a business mind from a kid.
Were you, when you were 21, when you decided to kind of hang it up? Is that what you're saying?
More or less 21. And part of that was, it's funny, it might be a defeatist attitude, but I thought like, God, if I can't win the overall at these shows, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, what I'm dedicating to it, I have no life, you know, so I don't know where else I can go. Like, I don't know the next step in terms of level of dedication.
Yeah.
So, and I know people who have beaten me, some of them are kind of like winging it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I died in 7 weeks. You know, how'd you do? Well, I beat Chris in the show. So I was thinking, like, what if these guys go to the nth degree?
Yeah.
So I knew it was a very crowded field, and you know, the odd natural progression was, at least with bodybuilding, is when I was in California as a young person, very young, there were opportunities to do things like writing for bodybuilding magazines and doing that type of stuff.
Yeah.
That I could generate an income from. And, you know, sometimes, not that I was ever thinking professional bodybuilding, ever, never crossed my mind, but I would see people who are professional bodybuilding struggling, which was a weird idea for me, because I thought professional should be connected somehow to making money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I was young and naive.
If you had to look back at it now, and I'm not saying you regret anything, but let's say you could go back to being 21, you understand now, obviously, that it might have been a rash decision to retire after one loss.
Well, I mean, there were a few shows that, you know, that I couldn't win overalls. I don't think it was rash. You know, it's a decision that I don't have any regrets about.
Yeah.
But when I look back and I see pictures of myself, I say, God, that was really good. I didn't know. You know, I mean, you do the same thing, right? I mean, every competitor says, God, why didn't someone tell me for that show I was peeled? You know what I mean? I would have been confident.
Yeah, I've been there.
You know, geez, why didn't someone tell me? You know, I would have fought for that win when I was second or third.
That's right.
So, you know, I didn't know. But what I did know is that in my mind, I thought I couldn't get bigger, which is an odd idea looking back, because I was so young.
How big were you?
Like 200 pounds. On
stage?
Yeah, on stage, you know, 198, 202.
Yeah.
But, you know, which was like big enough for my
That's frame. Pretty big. That's pretty big at 21, and you're only 5'8", 5'9"?
5'9".
Yeah, that's pretty big at 21 years old, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was big in the context of my frame, you know, small bone, small hips. You know.
So did you coach yourself, and you kind of studied this all yourself?
No.
Who coached you?
I had Bob Gruskin coach me. So I stole everything from him. I always told him that. I said, I stole everything from him. I mean, I just didn't invent the stuff, right?
Yeah.
You know,
but I think Jay said you had a exercise and physiology background.
I did. No, I went to, sitting over there, I can go over and I have I graduated very top of my class in applied exercise science. So I know the science of it, but I don't think bodybuilding science at all.
Really?
I mean, it is, but it isn't. I mean, it is, of course.
Yeah.
But it's fluid. You know, it's science, but it's instincts, and it's you know, sometimes this you know, it's not 1 + 2 = 3.
Yeah.
I mean, as we all know, sometimes 1 + 2 does not equal 3. I mean, you could be dieting your ass off and your weight stays the same and you don't lose 1 pound of body fat and you look worse. Yeah. So that's 1 + 2 = like 19.
Yeah.
You know?
So you stole everything from your coach, and then after 21, you went out to LA to do.
Yeah, we got to change the slide. Hold on. I went out to. I got lucky. I read. I had a muscular development before Blackman owned it.
Yeah.
And there was an ad that I knew they were having this bodybuilding camp in New Jersey. I had heard about it.
Mm.
And the bodybuilding camp had like Lee Hany, blah, blah, blah. It was like this little, bodybuilding camp.
Yeah.
And the next year they were moving it to LA, and they were looking for people to come out and help. And so you had to send a resume, and there was a prerequisite. You had to have like a PhD. You had to have like real credentials in terms of education.
Yeah.
You can't be like, I won the nationals and I'm going. You'd be like, I was 8th at the nationals, but I got a PhD in exercise physiology.
Yeah.
So I put together a resume and I sent it out, put a stamp on it. And one day somebody called me. I thought it was like a joke, telephones, no cell phones.
Yeah.
And they call them from Los Angeles and they said, we think we want you to come out, but you're way too young compared to the people who we hired in the past. They had like 8 people running this thing the year before.
Yeah.
Now you get to go out and like live with Lee Hany, Rich Gaspari, Barry DeBay.
Oh, that's cool.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Los Angeles, Golds. They said, we think you're too young. We think you might be, not educated enough. You're like in your 2nd year or something, like in college or something like that. But one of the guys who owned the camp wants to take a chance on you. So here's the deal. If you come out and you screw up, we're going to put you right on the plane and go home. If you screw up in any way, shape, or form, you're staying 1 day and we're sending you back.
Wow.
But if you want to come, this was like this December. We have like 500 applicants and we're going to give it to like you. I just couldn't believe it, Fouad. It was insane.
Yeah. So
I was like, wow. It's kind of like winning the lottery. It didn't hit you until you start buying the stuff. Until you start living in the $1 million mansion. So you get out there and like, oh, there's Lee Hany. And so I get out there and they were true to their word. I get out there and the owner of the camp, Dave Zelon, who went on to produce the Miss Olympia, really wanted to produce the Mr. Olympia, but we wouldn't let him. He said, test drive it with the Miss Olympia. And he had it on TV live as it was happening. So he went on to produce like Major Motion Pictures, which was his, next goal in life. So he knew what he was doing. He called me into his office and he screamed at me. I just met him. Mm-hmm. He said, you F up in this place and I'm sending you back. So I ended up honestly being the best worker they'd ever seen in their lives. One, I'm a Capricorn, which is hard work ethic. But 2, they scared me to death, like scared straight. Like, oh my gosh, if I screw up 1 minute, I'd be like, something starts at 6 a.m. I'd be there at like 5:10. Don't be late. Yeah. And so somehow from there, I was really young, like 19 or 20. And then I ran into, Joe Weider somehow my paths crossed with Weider. Oh, one of the guys who worked at the camp. Yeah. Worked for Joe and asked me to write an art. Can you write? I'll tell you how naive I was. Like, okay, can I write? What type of question is that? Can I write? Like, you know what I mean? Can you spell? Can you sing? So I said, I said, I can write. And they said, what do you mean? And he said, like articles. And I said, no, I can't do that. And they said, well, why don't you try it? We'll give you like an outline and you put something. And Joe went nuts. He loved it.
Okay.
And I wrote it on like, I wrote it with honestly, you wrote it with a pen and paper and I turned it in. Yeah. And they would have someone on a typewriter. Yeah. Or probably then they would have a computer. They would have some type of like
old ass, like,
oh my gosh,
Commodore 64.
Yeah. And so they asked me to write full time or a lot. And they said, we'll buy your computer, would you like to do it? So, and that's how I got my teeth into Weider in some roundabout way.
Yeah. So you're making money with Weider, and are you in school at this time or not in school? Are you done with school?
I was in school. So I'd go back in school.
Where at?
Springfield College.
Okay. And where was that exactly?
In Massachusetts.
In Massachusetts. Okay.
So who wants it? I'd go to LA in the summer and
you live there. Would you live there all summer?
Oh yeah, I just lived there the whole summer. I stayed at Loyola Marymount University. That's where the camp was. They put me up. They give you your food. They pay you. They just work you like a dog. You work like crazy for the summer. Yeah. And it was like an indentured servant almost. And then I'd go back to college and I'd be like in a daze all year, because I just can't wait till like May to go back up. I mean, who cares really?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just, you know, I'd still get good grades and stuff, but I had no social nothing because I'd still just like train.
Yeah.
But then I'd be pumped up to go out to California, you know, and I think sometimes like I'm back in Springfield with like college kids. And I just came from spending the summer with
Lee Hany,
Rich Gaspari, Barry DeMay, Samir Banout, who I befriended, like whoever was like, it'd be like saying the top 8 at the Olympia this year.
So I just want to understand something. So let me get this straight. You go out there in May, you're there until what date? Till August?
I'd go out there in May and come back like when school starts, September. Like everyone would come. Yeah.
Are those guys there? Are those guys there living in the house with you, or are they?
No. What they would do is they would like Hany or Gaspari. Like 1 week would be like the Lee Hany week.
Oh, okay.
Hany would come out on a Sunday night, and he'd be there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
He would leave, and then the next week would be Rich Gaspari.
Okay.
And then the next week would be Bev Francis. The next week would be like Barry DeMay with Samir Banout. The next week would be, whoever, Mike Christian. And
so how many summers did you do this for?
I did that 3 summers. And then the last summer I ran into Ed Connors, who knew Bob Gruskin, who was my bodybuilding coach. They were friends. And I didn't know what Ed looked like. And I ran into him in the parking lot. And he said, you want to manage a gym for me? I look at that. I said, I was thinking, oh, listen, I went from being able to go to California to live with Lee Hany, right?
Yeah.
As a college student and writing articles for Joe Weider. I thought he was talking about managing Gold's Venice. He's like, no, the gym is like, I was out in the boondocks and somewhere that he just opened in California. He said, no, I'm not leaving this, there's no way I'm leaving the beach, this breeze and all that. So he said, what are you doing for money? I said, saving it, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, I heard you work with bodybuilders, in the gym. I don't know what that meant. Like, he didn't say like prepping them for shows, like helping them. Yeah.
Were you coaching people at this time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he said, I'll get a deal for you. I help bodybuilders, and if I can send people your way, can you help them for free? And I'll give you a free office next to my office in Gold's, and that's it. And so, like, I was off to the races the next day. I moved in the next day. He gave me a parking spot that I could park my junky car there. And he gave me an office next to his office where I used his secretary as like my secretary, like Fouad's at the dentist. Make him wait out there. Yeah. It was like one of those old fashioned things. Like, can you imagine how you push a button?
Yeah.
You can't see the face, like, and you hear the voice, and his secretary would say, Chris, so-and-so is at the front desk for you.
Yeah.
And I'd push the button back and I'd say, send him down. And he'd have to walk down.
So you went from this little kid working at a camp to having an office at Gold's Gym with your own secretary.
In 3 years. Yeah.
That's an incredible story.
It's insane.
So who would say no? Nobody would say no to that. Nobody at that age with that scenario would say no to Ed Connors.
No. And my favorite Ed Connors story is at some point I'm working for him, and he says, Gold's had their own nutrition line. And I was so appreciative of what Ed was doing for me. He said, can you go out to Minnesota dead of winter for 2 weeks and go promote the line for me? Gold's, they had their supplements. What you need to do is you need to teach people in the stores about nutrition, basic, simple stuff, and how they should sell the nutrition products to customers. And I said, yes. So he gave me his credit card, and he said, you set it up. You set it up. These are the towns, no Google Maps, no nothing. These are the towns. These are the times you have to be there. Yeah. These are the people you got to meet with their telephone numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You can go from town to town. You'll figure it out, Chris. But here's my credit card. And you can, go out there and it'd be a good experience for you, and, won't cost you anything. So I fly into like Minneapolis or something.
Mm-hmm.
Fouad, I rented the cheapest car you could. Like I went to the, in those days you could rent used cars from places,
Yeah.
So I rented the car, and every night I'd have to stay in a different hotel. Well, I'd get to like Minneapolis and I'd spend like an hour. I'd stay at like 30 minutes out in like a grotesque.
Why?
Because I didn't want to spend Ed's money.
Oh, you. So instead of taking advantage of him, you were being extra polite.
Yeah.
Just say, okay.
And so I didn't eat one meal out. I went to the grocery store, bought all my food, and I was buying like tuna fish and bread and rice.
Yeah.
And one day I was so burnt out, I went to the movies and I went to a restaurant and got like a chicken sandwich.
Yeah.
And so when I came back, I gave him all my receipts.
Yeah.
And he calls me in like 2 weeks later on that little thing. Hey, Chris, come down to my office. And okay, I'll be right there. I run right down. And he's got the manila folder and he throws it at me. He said, sit down. And I'm thinking, oh my God, he's going to be pissed that I get that chicken sandwich in the movies. He says, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't talk.
Yeah.
I thought I'd let him down. He said, where did you go? And I thought, like, where'd I go? What'd I do? I'm in trouble. He said, these expenses don't add up. You were there for 2 weeks. You rented a car. You stayed in hotels. And, little did I know people who would work for Gold's, they go, rent like a Rolls and stay at the like Ritz and eat out every single meal and, put hookers on the, credit card for God's sakes.
Yeah.
So after that, I think he was like forever trusting of me because he gave me his credit card. And I figured if someone gives me your credit card, I know most people would like do something with it.
That's right.
I did the opposite.
I want to continue on with the timeline, but I want to go back to one thing because I've heard this about you. Are you like extremely cheap or thrifty? Because this is like a common theme I keep hearing about you. Not cheap. I just hear that you're very responsible with money.
I never have money because I save it. I never have money because I save it. Like I'm always broke because I save it. Like if someone asked me, you have any money? I said, no, I have no money this month because I already budgeted and put it away what I wanted to put away, which is an aggressive amount to save. So whatever I have left over for myself, I mean, my kids have money, but for myself, I have nothing.
Where does that come from? Because I'm jealous about that. Like a lot of bodybuilders, you probably know because you coach so many of them, we're all fucking horrible with money. We're buying Jordans and we're buying food out, we're buying this and that. And it's just like, you either have to make more money so you can live or you just end up broke all the time. So where does that like thriftiness come from where you're like nowhere to save?
I think I would say maybe it came from like my father always told me to save money.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'd hear stories like of my grandparents who grew up in the Depression, that they had nothing and I didn't want to end up that way.
Yeah.
But, I don't have lots of sneakers. But I've always thought that, money is meant to be invested and enjoyed. I didn't start actually enjoying like quote having saved my money until I was probably 40, and I saved aggressively from like 22.
Yeah, that's it's really.
I mean, I went without like, I mean, I did a lot of things. I mean, I didn't do a lot of things that other people did because I wanted to be able to save enough so that when I wanted to be able to spend money, I could and not have to worry about being broke.
That's really unheard of, especially at 22 living in LA. I mean, you'd think you'd be, out spending your cash and having fun and doing all this different stuff. So my dad tried to do that to me. I still went the opposite way. My dad was the thriftiest guy in the world, but it's something I didn't like inherit from him.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you got that. And why, I don't know, like I keep hearing it over and over again. Cause Jay even did
a video where he uses a coffee cup for his pre-workout.
Yeah.
And he has a bag of shaker cups in the trunk of his car. He's like, when Dave says to him, Chris would be upset if you used a shaker cup. He goes, I know, that's why I used the coffee cup. So there's a reoccurring theme I keep hearing. So anyways, back to your story. So after you get your job at Gold's, how long are you at Gold's for?
I was there like 2.5 years, 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
What took you from there? Like, why did you leave there?
Well, it's funny. It goes to money.
Oh, okay.
I was making good money out there, but I thought it was good. I mean, it was good money, and I was saving it like a crazy man.
Mm.
And so, and of course, rents were high, right? Yeah. Rents were always going to be high in LA.
Yeah.
And so I started looking for, like a place to buy, because I didn't want to pay someone to live. I wanted to have something of my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just flabbergasted with the prices. It was just like, holy God, am I ever in my life going to be able to buy something out here? It was just overwhelming. Yeah. I remember looking at condos above a 7-Eleven.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, do I want to live above a 7-Eleven?
Yeah.
So I had come out, I'm from Maine, and I came out to Maine to do seminars, and it was 88, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And the S&L crisis was going on. The S&L crisis was the prelude to the financial crisis in 2008.
Yeah.
In the S&L crisis, real estate was given away.
Mm-hmm.
And I came to Maine, and there was a massive crash in the real estate market. And I stayed. The promoter of a gym put me up in this hotel on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd never stayed on the beach before.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just unbelievable. So he said, that's for sale. And I said, how much? And he's like, $90,000. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Because like in LA, it was like $390 for the one bedroom above the 7-Eleven.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he said, oh, it's a piece of junk. I'll take you, I'll get a real estate broker with you, and I'll take you around. And every single, like the next 3 places I saw, there were 20. I'm like, oh, no, I'll take this one. The next one's 130. And I'd be like, I'll take it, but what's wrong with it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it can't be that cheap, can it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I said, take me to the greatest one that's for sale.
Mm-hmm.
And it was mind numbing. And it was 154, 64, something like that. And I said, I'll take this.
Yeah.
And I took it right there. Done.
So the crash helped you, obviously, because you already had your money saved.
Yeah. And that was it. I went back to LA and sent all my stuff back. I said, you know what? Do I want to really live in Maine? Not really. But this seems like, it seems like an opportunity.
Yeah. So you're back in Maine now. You're back in Maine now. How old are you now at this point?
89, 23, 20.
Oh shit. 20. This is all like still in your early 20s.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, everyone in this building's like 64. They're like, is your father, is that, I remember opening the door and this lady following me up and saying, is Jerry your father? I said, no, I bought the unit from him. She's like, what are you talking about? I said, yeah, I just bought it from him.
Yeah.
I'm 23. I'm living here with all you people.
All you old people, yeah.
All the people I did.
Yeah. So what are you doing there for work now? Now you're back in Maine. Are you coaching full time, or you still have other stuff going on?
No, everything lines up, right? Things work out when you're patient. And so I had no means of income. I was giving up a big income in California to move to Maine, which is probably in retrospect not smart.
Can I ask you, how does that, you said earlier, is an opportunity, and obviously the real estate market was the opportunity, but how do you just go to no job?
Well, I had to figure that out. And I I was so enamored with this living on the beach thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like living on the beach and like, it was like living on the beach like you're like a Goldman Sachs executive.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, my father was like, came out and he died and nothing impresses him, you know? So, and so as crazy as it sounds, somehow I was married at the time to Laura Craval, and
I didn't know that. How old were you when that happened?
I was like 20. I was like 21 when I got married.
Holy shit! So all the stuff you're telling me about being in LA and all that, you're married at that time?
No, that was all the way up until like until the last year of the camp. So the last year of that 3 years stint at the camp, I meet Laura.
Mm-hmm. So you're in May.
I have to steal away from Vince Taylor, who's in love with her. Sorry, Vince.
Did you really? Were they dating and you took her away?
They were at one time.
Okay. So wait a minute. So you leave LA and you're in Maine. Does she come to Maine with you?
Yeah. We get married and she comes out there, and you know, it's a big move. So probably the income. Steve Bleckman sends out Lori Granis. When you're 21, you're very naive. Mm-hmm. And no matter who you are, and even if you think you're not naive, you're naive. Yeah. So amazingly, Steve Bleckman sends out Lori Granis, who was tight with him, worked with him, came out to LA. Lori Granis stayed in our apartment. We had a nice apartment. I had a really nice apartment in LA, not the typical, it was nice. Yeah. And she told me, which was kind of bizarre, Steve, who owns Twin Lab, wants to sign you to a contract. I'm like, sign who? You and Laura. And I said, for what? To endorse his supplements, Twin Labs. And he's starting this magazine, Muscular Development, and he sees that you're writing for Joe.
Oh, okay. I get it.
Except Steve tells people he gives me a start. Isn't that funny? He says, I gave him a start.
Of course he does. I
was like, wait a minute. So I was writing regularly already for Joe, for Muscle Fitness and Flex. Yeah. And so he said, I'll give you a contract. So he gave us like a 3-year deal. Mm-hmm. And that allowed me to buy time to, to have an income from somewhere outside of LA. Yeah. So when we moved to Maine, the source of income was from MD, Twin Lab. And then Business Mind, I started Fouad, like sending out tons of flyers to people, you want to see me and, Laura do a seminar and guest poses. I mean, we were.
Would you guest pose too?
No, I'd do it like a seminar.
And she would do the
guest pose. And I mean, we had like, and we'd sell tons of stuff. It was different back in the day, we'd sell tons of clothes. I'd have like Hutskins send clothes to like the Fouad Classic Bodybuilding Show. Say, Fouad, we're coming up there. Here's like $4,000 worth of clothes. Yeah. I'm going to get up there and I'm going to try to sell it all. And I would.
Wow.
Or she would, or we would. And
was she a pro at the time?
Yeah, she was. She had won the World Championships, which qualified her for the Olympia. And she went to her first Olympia in New York in '88 and placed outside like top 10. So her next show, she got invited to the Olympia, which was '89. And I mean, she got 6th, but she was the Hany Chupin / Patrick Moore of the show. You know what I mean? But just like, whoa. Yeah. So much so that, it's so crazy. I mean, I knew her from the camp, but Corey called like after that show and said, you can win this show. I'm quitting, but you can win it.
Really?
Yeah.
So were you coaching her at this time?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. How was that? I always ask people about relationships when there's 2 people in the bodybuilding world. How is that as a coach athlete for your marriage?
Well, I guess it was fine because I didn't know any better. Okay. I'd never coached a female. The only other female I'd end up coaching years later would be, oh God, she's going to kill me. She won the Wings of Strength 2 years ago. The first year she won it, she was peeled out of her mind.
I have no idea.
I was going to say Hany Chopin. Heli. You know Heli?
Yeah. Why didn't you train women? Is it just a personal choice, or?
Yeah. You
didn't know?
I don't, because I don't want to breach the line of like, I know what would happen if I was coaching chicks, yeah. They'd be wanting to, kiss me after a week. You know what I mean? I mean, no, because you work with the body, and you said, geez, I'm surprised, Chris, 10 weeks out. I mean, I'm 10 weeks out from my show. That's how we started the show. And you're helping Shawn Rhoden for the Olympia. I know how I would be. I'd be like, hey, Candy, how's the, you feel tighter today? Yes, Chris, I miss you.
Yeah.
So, just to shut that whole, I can't believe people coach.
Some guys like it. Some guys like
I'm sure they love it.
Some guys like that aspect of it.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah. So how long were you married to Laura for?
Good 10 years, maybe.
Do you want to talk about what happened? It just fizzled or what?
No, I like to keep a lot of my private life private.
Okay.
Okay.
That's okay.
Because we're, aren't we, because that's me, one.
Yeah.
But also, as well as that, is people live, especially now on social media, so outwardly like there's nothing hidden anymore.
Yeah.
There's nothing private anymore.
Yeah. No, I get it.
There's no,
It's okay. We don't have to talk about it, man. We can move on. Okay. So after you're working for a while, you're doing seminars, you're doing all this stuff. Where do you go from here? What's next after, like, how old are you when you get divorced? 30, 32?
Yeah. 30, 31, 30, something like that.
So at this point, are you the well-known Chris are you training Jay at this time?
Yeah. I started training Jay when I was, I think 24. So he was like 8. Yeah. Cause he was like 18. So he used to come up to visit me all the time in Maine.
Mm-hmm.
And, I told Jay from the pretty soon on, you will be Mr. Olympia.
Really?
I told him that.
You just knew?
Yeah, well, I knew, because I knew, the genetics that it would take.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew equally well the mindset that it would take.
Yeah.
And I could be Mr. Olympia for sure, mentally. Genetically, I couldn't. So, I can identify in someone else what it takes. I don't mean to insult people by saying I could be Mr. Olympia, but I have that mindset.
I get it.
To, I can build something big,
mm-hmm.
because I know what hard work is, and I know how to avoid mistakes, and I know how to learn from others without making mistakes.
Yeah.
I know what focus is, and I saw all those things like in Jay, and I saw those at a really weirdly young age, 19, 18. So I said, I told him, from the get-go, you're going to be Mr. Olympia. He thought I was nuts.
Well, any kid would, if somebody comes up to them and says they're going to be Mr. Olympia.
Yeah, but I always say that I'm right usually.
Yeah, but
I was like, I'm always right.
But you sound like George Farah. That's what George Farah says to everybody.
Yeah, but he tells everyone. I only told Jay. I told Jay, and I told Jay would run Coleman down. I told Jay, you will run him down and get him.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Rhoden, you will run down Phil and get him.
Yeah. Let me ask you, when you tell somebody you're going to be Mr. Olympia, and I feel like, I don't know if you talk about it or do it intently, but I feel like you like to get into the minds of your athletes a little bit. Was any of that confidence boost, or is it just something you firmly believed?
I believe. I don't.
No.
Because I don't try to boost people's confidence, because you have to have some level of your own confidence. I mean, I guess it's nice if someone believes in you, but
let me rephrase the question. I'm sorry. So obviously I'm not saying you blew smoke up his ass. Obviously it's something you believed. But was there an element like, I need to tell this person what he's worth to get his mind right? Or is it
I was telling him because I was so excited because I knew I'd be there.
Okay.
That's the only reason I tell him like, Jay, you're going to be Mr. Olympia. Can't wait. Can't wait.
Did you know it would take that long?
No.
No.
Because I was helping other people at that time too. I was like, heavily involved with Mike Francois, who I thought he could, but I never did tell him he could. But I did tell him he'd win the Arnold on his birthday. I told him that.
Why didn't you tell him he could win the Olympia?
Because Dorian was scared, was a little,
okay.
It was, I'd seen Dorian in person.
Yeah.
So I think that was a stumbling block. And I saw Jay more than I saw Mike, because Jay lived closer to me, so I got to interact more.
Mm-hmm. Was there anybody you coached in the 90s that you thought could have beat Dorian, or is he was just the guy you knew he was going to be the guy?
No, I think Dorian looked. I don't think I don't think anyone who knows me, I think everyone is beatable all the time. Period. Mm-hmm. I'm never. Maybe it's a Capricorn. I'm not impressed with a lot of things. Things don't impress me. Like people's big houses don't impress me. Infinitesimal money doesn't impress me. It's very impressive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lee Hany, when I met him when I was 18, incredibly impressive, but I'm not like overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's Lee Hany.
Yeah.
So
what do you think that is?
I think it has to do with knowing that everyone is fallible, and everyone, if they're fallible and have weaknesses and insecurities, they're beatable. And there's always someone richer than you, bigger than you, right? There's always someone richer than, like we thought 8 years ago, no one would be richer than Warren Buffett. Now a lot of people richer than Warren Buffett. We didn't think anyone would beat, in sports, you have, Mike Tyson, we thought he would never get beat, ever. Yeah, and he's losing 6 straight.
So is that why you don't have that like fanboy kind of in you, because everybody's got their own issue?
Everyone's got their own issues, that I am sure of. And, it's hard to transmit to other people. But I know, like early on, Jay got that. We never even discussed it, but people have their own worries, insecurities, fears, and so I think Dorian was completely he's completely beatable, but in at some point, he may leave the door open. Linda was supposed to be unbeatable, and Laura squashed her a couple times right on the scorecards. Right on the scorecards. Not my opinion, scorecards opinions.
Yeah.
So, I would tell. I think that's important in trying to, to understand the mentality of that everyone is vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And when you understand as an athlete or a business person that people are vulnerable, and you don't know what's going on in their head, but a lot of times they're not all cocksure of themselves and got it all together as is on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for like Jay to have chased down Coleman, or Shawn to chase down Phil, it says a lot about their mentality.
Yeah. Because
everyone else would have gave up. They've been crushed mentally,
Well, we've seen it happen. We've seen guys that should have won and didn't win, and then ended up crushed afterwards. Like the first person that comes to mind is Victor or Nasser. Both of those are 2 cases I can think of where they should have won, or debatably should have won, where they were just devastated afterwards and never kind of came back from it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you make a good point. Do you think you're kind of, it almost seems like you're kind of above, I don't want to say above is the wrong word, but it almost feels like it's an envious position to be in when you kind of know other people are dealing with their own issues. Because I don't think a lot of people think like that.
Yeah. It's because I just text someone I'm helping right now and said, dude, they said, an amateur said, oh, so-and-so is doing the North Americas. Phew. And I said, well, you win the USA and then go in the North Americas and kick his ass. Maybe you want to want both. And he's like, I can't believe you said that. I said, well, you got to think that way. This guy who's going to North Americas, you know what? He hasn't won it yet. He hasn't won the Nationals yet. Hasn't won the USA, yet. In fact, he's bombed at shows. So you know what's in his mind? I'm a bomb out.
And nobody would look at it that way.
Yeah.
So do you ever tell a client if let's say somebody wants to try and get their pro card? So we'll use that example since you're talking to somebody about it. Do you ever tell them you're not ready?
Yeah, I tell people to be at that level.
Like you'll say to them flat out, like, you're not ready yet.
Yeah, all the time. You're not ready for that. People, someone just asked me the other day about how should I expect to place in this show? And I say, you should be, they actually said, should I win it? What do you think about top first call out or something? I said, it is not going to happen even with me. If you move in with me, it's not going to happen, period. So get it out of your head. Yeah. Get it out of your head so that you can be realistic.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you can't aspire to be in the first call, but you are not, you're just not ready.
I feel like coaches nowadays, because coaching has changed a lot since I started. I'm sure it's changed a lot since you started. I feel like coaching nowadays is very fragile. Like a lot of coaches won't say that to their clients. So you don't fear losing a bunch of people because you're too honest. I
don't fear. I always say if every single person stop working with me tomorrow, I'll replace them with 10 new ones, and you'll see superstars. Because that's just the way my life has been with helping bodybuilders.
Yeah.
I remember doing an interview with Dave Palumbo. I said, Dave, it was like 2009. I said, I'll have another Mr. Olympia, 212 and open. Mm-hmm. And he said, who is it? I said, no idea yet. No idea, Dave. He doesn't remember that. I wish he had the clip,
Yeah. I had Jay on my podcast. Unfortunately, the file was corrupt. So the best interview I ever did didn't get posted. But in that interview, I asked Jay about 2009. So it's kind of interesting you brought that up. How did that, I know you guys are have a mentor kind of brotherly relationship almost.
Mm-hmm.
How did that affect you?
That
he went with, sorry, for those of you who don't know, I should explain. For those of you who don't know, Jay worked with Hany in 2009. How was that on your relationship, and how did that affect you with him going to Hany?
It was surprising, but, very surprising, but, I'm the type who I can say right here is, I didn't make Jay, but there's no one who had a bigger influence from 19 years old to, I tell people this is, and they fall into my trap. I said, it was me, by the way, who helped Jay win the Olympia in 2006.
Yeah.
And he could have won in 5. He could have won in 05.
Mm-hmm.
It was close, but he won in 06. And people say, oh yeah, Ronnie was on the way out. And I said, he beat him in 01.
That's true.
Think about that. People are like, what are you talking about? I said, every single judge, with the exception of one, had Jay winning the prejudging and the finals.
Mm-hmm.
So he beat him in that bodybuilding show. And that was the unbelievable 98 Coleman. No one will ever beat him. 99. No one will ever beat him. 2000. No. I said, we'll see. We'll see. And I have a picture.
Yeah.
A Polaroid picture of me taking a picture of Jay and Coleman 2000 in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Jay, get in this picture with Ronnie. And he said, why? And I said, because he's never going to beat you again.
Wow. Because
I saw on the tour vulnerability in the physiques.
Yeah.
And if I told people that, they said, you're such an ass. You don't know what you're talking about. No one's ever going to beat Coleman. Jay can't compare to Coleman. Well, funny, I just went to 3 or 4 tour shows that Jay got second.
Yeah.
And at least one of them, Jay could have easily won.
Yeah.
And no one would have blinked a wink. Wink to blink, blink to wink, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I said, I want that picture so that I can keep it, which I still have.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, hey, that's the last time Coleman ever beat you. And that was, so Jay took the entire year off.
Mm-hmm.
And came into the Olympia that year. And, that was history making, really. It was history making for so many reasons. Unfortunately, it was a 2-day show.
Yeah.
If it was a 1-day show, Jay would have won for sure, without a shadow of a doubt. It was so shocking to people.
Yeah.
It was be like going to the Olympia this year and some guy who was 13th or 8th
Yeah.
Just demolishing the show.
Like Patrick Moore walking in and winning.
Yeah, but with Phil in it. You know what I mean? With the defending or Rhoden and Phil and the whole gang. You know what I mean? Like with nothing against Curry.
No, I got you. Yeah.
But Phil was like, and Ronnie, you know, they had a string going.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but in that context, you know, funny is Dave asked me on the radio show. He said, you know, is Jay working with this thing? I said, yeah. You know, I said, I'll have an Olympia. Don't worry about it. I didn't mean it in like a mean way. I said, you know what? I meant to say I'm really talented at this, Dave. I'll find someone, and that someone, and the focus immediately after that was actually Eduardo Correa, because he came from amateurs.
Yeah.
And he could have won, you know, at certain shows, 212 title. You know,
Eduardo was impressive.
I think politics played into some decisions. Always plays into some decisions, including 2001. If it was a one-day show,
yeah,
they wouldn't. You know, of course, after the prejudging, everyone's talking about Jay. So what are they talking about? God, is he going to win? Are we going to give him the title? Should we give him the title? You know, I mean, Christ, Joe's still involved at that point. You know,
yeah.
You think Joe didn't make a panic call?
Why would so you brought up politics. Why do you think the politics went in Coleman's favor?
I think Joe I'm guessing, but I wouldn't be surprised if Joe had the Mr. Olympia under contract. Jay was not under contract with someone else.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know?
Yeah. So people will be shocked to hear that. You think, well, some people will be shocked to hear that. Some people think politics is alive in bodybuilding, and
I'm just saying the judges did the right thing the first day.
Yeah. And they changed their mind for some reason.
Yeah.
So what kind of pressure goes with, I imagine the pressure, let me rephrase it. I imagine the pressure of coaching a Mr. Olympia is probably insane, but you seem to be very cool about it.
I have none. I have no pressure whatsoever.
Okay, but wait a minute. Can we just please explain to people what this consists of? You basically have a guy who in your hands could win $400,000 and become the best bodybuilder in the world. And it's all kind of in your hands, and you have no pressure in that?
Zero.
Why?
Fouad, because all I care about is the relationship. I only care about one thing, a few things is, do I really add some type of value for the bodybuilder? Does he actually listen to me? You know what I mean? Because I'm definitely going to be smarter than every bodybuilder I know.
Mm-hmm.
Only because I have more experience doing it.
The history,
you know, in terms of prep. And a lot of times, no matter who they are, they're ready to crack under pressure. I really don't care so long as they end up looking good. I mean, there's a lot of shows I've been to where so-and-so could have won or so-and-so could have won. And it's like, you know what, you look great. You know, judges, it was a tough decision. And I had you winning, but I can see Fouad's point, you know, why someone else won. And, you know, it's funny is when Rhoden won the Olympia, I've never been to the event after the Olympia. And Shawn said, are you coming to the event? I said, what event? What am I missing? What event? I never even knew.
How did you not know?
I don't know, because I'm not into like...
For those of you who don't know, there is a dinner after the Olympia where, explain to everybody gets together and they have dinner.
I'm too cheap to buy the clothes.
You don't want to buy a suit. Just go in your fucking warm-ups. Who cares? Just show up.
I'll borrow your $1,000 suit for people like, look at that. God, this is how big that is. So I used to be big.
So what happened? So he invites you to go.
And I'm like, I'm going to sleep, dude. I'm tired. I'm going to it's just, I made a video. I went to 7-Eleven. I got chicken wings and a Diet Coke, and I sent that video to Jay because I know he knows my mentality. I'm like, here I am, Jay. Rhoden won the Olympia. I'm going to 7-Eleven. I videoed it on my phone.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And I said, I'm going home to eat. I'm going to eat it in my room and fly out tomorrow.
Why don't you? Honestly,
because you know what part of it is, Fouad?
To be honest with you, I'm a little envious because most people have to go to the event. They have to be seen. They have. I'm
number one. I'm number one.
Yeah, I'm the guy. I'm the coach. I'm the coach. I'm the guy.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, and I'm a little envious that you just don't give a shit.
Yeah, I don't.
Why don't you give a shit? Like, why? Why don't you give a shit?
Because, part of it is, shouldn't Shawn Rhoden be the superstar? Or shouldn't Kamal be the superstar? I mean, I'm going to Qatar next week to do some like seminars with Kamal. It's a little embarrassing, because to me, I think he's the superstar, and I think bodybuilding prep coaches can add, invaluable, help. But at the end of the day, as prepping for a show is, holy smokes, it's insane. Yeah. I mean, it can get really intense, physically, mentally, emotionally, and, the guru's here like this on this computer, right? Eat a muffin. and then when he wins, I like to do the opposite though. Is when Shawn did win, I was trying to like play it up. We have some funny video after he won. It was mostly throwing like other people under the bus.
I can imagine what it was like.
Yeah, it was me being sarcastic with other coaches.
So now you're a 3-time Olympia winner, and you haven't shared in the joy, like the joy right afterward. Like, do you even care? Even at home when you're with your chicken wings,
no,
and you don't sit there and feel like a sense of satisfaction.
No, I only feel guilt if the person didn't look the way I look, the way I thought they would look. That would probably hang with me for a long time.
That's messed up, right? So you feel the guilt, but you don't feel any pleasure.
I know.
Okay.
It is.
Just wondering if you know.
No, I mean, I do know it. I mean, but I can say that, most of the time, people tend to, quote, hit it. Yeah. And people know me, though, in the hotel room. I mean, the stuff that comes out of my mouth in a hotel room is just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I mean, the negative things I've said about Phil, jokingly in a room, or, or Flex Lewis. I must have had like 13 people qualified for the 212 Olympia. Yeah. And I've said so many, negative things about him, joking, because I admire his physique and, what he's accomplished.
Yeah.
So that's fun. But we don't have the luxury of beating Flex.
Yeah.
Except when Kamal won and Flex came back to congratulate him, I said, I can't. He said, congratulations, Chris. Flex was, happy. He's known Kamal for like 20, since he was a teenager. Yeah. And I said, there's no happiness for me, Flex, because I'm still bitter about when Eduardo should have beaten you. And I thought Jose should have beaten you one year. And I thought that. So he gets my wacky humor.
One of the things I always wondered was how come. I would think if there is things like politics that it would hurt you because you're very outspoken. And you're usually very outspoken about the judging.
Yeah.
And it never seems to come back at you.
Well, because I think that when I criticize judging, I'm always open-minded to I could be, it's my opinion.
Yeah.
One. And it's a sport built on collective opinions. That's all judging is. It's a collective group, Mm-hmm. 4 guys have, Ronnie first at the night show in 2001, 5 people thought Ronnie posed better than Jay versus 3. And then when they did their final comparisons at the end of the day, 6 people thought Ronnie, looked better in those final comparisons than 2.
Yeah.
But, I'm not even careful. I'm not careful. I mean, because it's like black and white. I'd never say like, and this judge, he's an asshole, mm-hmm. or this judge, cheats on his wife. I mean, it's like bizarre.
Yeah, but sometimes
I try to keep it professional as best I can.
Yeah, but it seems like you get away with it more than others, and maybe it's because of the time you've been in the sport. Maybe you've built up enough street credit, as they would call it, but. They don't seem to penalize your athletes for your outspokenness. I remember in 2000, I don't know if you remember this, 2008, it was at Dallas Europa. You were coaching Tarek El Satoui. And
That's a long time ago, dude.
I know, you probably don't remember, but the judges called him in fourth. I was third. That was the first year I qualified for Olympia.
Yeah.
And you stood up and you yelled bullshit as loud as it's the only thing you could fucking hear in the auditorium. And I was like, I hate Chris. I'm like, fucking Chris is an asshole. That's all I could think for like 5 years.
Was that, I wonder why I was saying bullshit about, but his placing or?
No, his placing, because he beat me and you were coaching him. And
who won that show?
Tony Freeman won. Dennis James took second.
Oh, okay. Now I remember the show. Yeah,
and I took third. Anyway, that was my recollection of Chris for the first, beginning of my career. That's all I knew about you. But somehow, even if I found that no matter what you said or did in any interviews or anything like that, nobody ever penalized you for anything you said. So you just kind of lived above it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm glad I'm able to. I mean, I just, people ask me my opinion. We do a wrap up and I try to, I do two things. I'm always trying to analyze what I actually see. Mm-hmm. And generally I don't filter what I see. Yeah. And the second thing is I try to annoy other people. Because I know how thin-skinned other people are. So Fouad, I mean, as everyone knows, he has problems with his fullness coming, holding it through just something like that, because every bodybuilder is going to say, I couldn't hold my fullness through the prejudging. I thought he faded in the last call out and, and I'll do this. I don't know what he might, probably is I don't know, could have been a screw up on a Thursday or Friday with his, carb load. Maybe, there wasn't enough sodium during the load, or maybe he pulled it out too, and it gets because there's 1,000 variables, right? Yeah. And the bodybuilder runs back to his room and thinks oh, maybe I should have been fuller. Maybe I should have
Where did I mess up? Yeah. So 30 years in the game, 33 years in the game, something like that?
It's insane.
How long is it going to be before you say, I don't want to work with these guys anymore? They're all fucking crazy.
Well, they are all fucking crazy. And I told Jay says, how long are you going to keep going? And I said, the minute I don't like it, I will stop it.
So you're still enjoying it?
Yeah, I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. A little bit less, but I still I really enjoy the process. And I enjoy, helping someone achieve a physique that they thought they couldn't get. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just helped someone. I mean, I can go through a list and I don't need to name names, but, just someone who I just helped won a big show, amateur show, at least his class.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he'd been smoked in these shows, you know what I mean? And here he is winning it.
Yeah.
And it's just I'm well, that's what I expected. I knew that was going to happen that way. I just knew that he was going to, win the class, if not the overall. But the satisfaction is not really in winning. It's just in the excitement for the person to achieve, their dream, or even if it's not their, it's not to be corny, but it's either their dream or, to get a pro card, or just the idea, I just never thought I could look like that.
Yeah.
I had a lot of people say to me, I just never thought I could look like that.
Yeah. Why are you enjoying it? You said you're enjoying it less now. Why do you think?
Because people are enjoying it less.
Really? What does that mean?
I mean, I think that the, people, compete, and they compete to look their best and this and that, but they want to shut Fouad up. You know what I mean? They want to shut the haters up. And it's damn, you're bringing this all on yourself by being so mistakenly misguided, involved in social media. I just want to shut so-and-so up. Someone sent me today, did you see what so-and-so said about you? And I said, well, that's what my success does to them. It just drives them nutty. I mean, someone's talking to I don't even know about, you know what I mean? It's just talking negative about me. And the person who sent it, I said, just don't send me those things, because it makes me not enjoy it, Yeah.
Did you study psychology at all?
Well, no, but I took psychology courses, and they said that most bodybuilders that you deal with will be crazy. It's actually Fouad. You know what I've realized today? I'm dead serious. Bodybuilders are crazy. Yeah. But most people, most quote regular people, when you peel away the veneer, because I deal with people out in other things.
Yeah.
And they're equally as crazy as bodybuilders are crazy. Between God, he's beating his wife, and bodybuilding was it. That's the trend, right?
Yeah.
And this guy's like 140 beating his wife.
Yeah.
Or the recreational drugs, or just cheating on their spouses, and it's just. I used to think bodybuilders were special because it was especially crazy.
No,
but it's
just more evident, I think. It just
no, because we're around it.
Yeah.
So that's who we know. That's who we know. Like if you were like working at a 9-to-5 job in a suit and tie, and we were doing a show on like
office politics.
You'd be like, oh, everyone in the office is nuts. I don't even know how this company stays afloat.
Yeah.
And you'd hear the back,
What? How many clients you got right now going into the Arnold? Let's talk about that before you go.
Just 2.
What do you got?
Patrick Moore and Sergio Oliva.
Okay, both are extremely interesting. I just had Patrick on yesterday or the day before, and I think I have Sergio coming on next week. What's going on with Sergio? Sergio looks like he ate another human.
Yeah.
Did you work with him all off season?
No, I'm not a big off season guy.
Okay.
It's other coaches steal my clients that way by saying, all the gains are made in the off season. You know what I say to that, Fouad? I said, you know what, dude? You can make all the gains you want in the off season. If you don't know what to do on Thursday night when you were holding water, you are toast. So all those gains in the off season don't mean shit. And my expertise is knowing the body.
Yeah.
It's not science. It's experience. And I have guts, and I don't worry. Like, geez, I wonder if I should have Fouad do this on Thursday. I could care less if he looks like shit on Friday or great on Friday. Most likely I'm trying to get him to look great on Friday. But if he looks, I'm willing to roll the dice and do what I think, or my gut tells me is best for him to look great on Friday. So, I don't do off seasons with people. I mean, some people I follow. I like to follow them sometimes.
How many coaches are stealing your clients? Let's go back to that real quick.
Oh, who wouldn't want to have the people I work with? How about that? That's the answer. Who would not want to have the people who I have worked with?
So you think they're leaving because they're kind of alone in the off season and they're lonely, so they go to a different coach?
I think coaches feed them bullshit.
Yeah.
Because Chris doesn't know training. Chris is a pencil neck. Chris really doesn't know what he's talking about. Chris doesn't know anabolics. Chris doesn't know, Chris just got sodium. Chris gives too much diuretics. Chris doesn't give enough diuretics. I mean, I've heard the whole 9 yards.
But you don't have a cookie cutter system, do you?
No, I have not. It's not even, this guy just asked me the other day. He said, you just changed my diet. I want to know why so I can learn. I said, you will learn nothing from me. Because everything I do is 100% from my gut, and I do say this to myself all the time. For what I said, no one's doing what I do.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times I don't even write shit down. I get like, this is Sergio Oliva's diet. It's pages and pages of shit, but I don't even look at it. It's just hard to explain. Like, just send me the picture, Sergio. I'll tell you if we got to gas it, or lighten up. So. The question was about Sergio. I've been working with Sergio a long time, and usually, not always, but sometimes, he's been like 12 weeks out. I'm like, God, he's small and fat, and he ends up looking good. Yeah. And I ran into him at the Olympia. We did the wrap up together, and he's great, right? Yeah. He's like, he's quotable all day long.
Yeah. Yeah.
I asked him, who was I said, we were talking about, I had to get my digs in, of course. And I said, who was, I said, Rolly looked like it was sponsored by Poland Spring. Who's held more water like that? Who's a big guy in the top 5? Yeah. He said, Ramy last year. Don't miss it a beat. But we were doing the interview, and I kept on looking at him, I kept on looking at him and I thought, God, he's big.
Yeah.
Because usually he's not.
Yeah.
So this was the first year he had, quote, an off season where he focused himself on bodybuilding, you know, adding mass, fewer distractions. Funny, we started with distractions.
Yeah, I know.
Social media, fewer distractions. I think he's comfortable in his skin. I think he's always been comfortable in his skin, but you know, when you get really comfortable with it, you know, who you are, what you're doing, what you plan to do, it makes a big difference. And so just his natural starting body weight was big.
Yeah.
Whereas
wasn't he like 305 or something?
305. He was 305.
Yeah.
And I mean, he looks really good right now. You know, it's he's got a month.
Yeah.
And he's in really, 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 I mean, I think he could be ready in a week.
Really?
And he has, Cormier went out there to move in with him. And I used to help Cormier when no one knew Chris Cormier.
Yeah.
That was like 30 years ago. So me and Chris go way back.
Yeah.
And we have a really good relationship. I have a lot of respect for Chris. And I like him as a person. I just feel comfortable with him.
Yeah.
And when he told me I'm going to go help Sergio, I thought that, you know, that's what he didn't say I'm going to coach him. I'm going to go drive. He said, I'm going to help him. And there was a lot to be said in that sentence. He's going to help him.
Yeah.
And he's, since Sergio's been looking good, but since Chris got there, you know, things have really clicked. And isn't it funny, Fouad, that people always say, I know people who train with Sergio who thought they trained hard. Like, I train hard. Then they train with Sergio and they said, holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow. I got smoked. And then Sergio trained with Chris and first thing out of his mouth was, oh my God, he's killing me.
Yeah.
So there's always another level.
Yep.
You know, and you know, in bodybuilding or in business, there's always someone sticking it harder than you.
Yeah. Where do you think, I'm really excited to see both your guys actually. Patrick really, really impresses me. But I'm really excited to see where Sergio places because I've always loved Sergio's physique. Like Sergio at the New York, I think New York was his debut, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely blew me away.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see what happens at the Arnold. Where do you see him?
You know, I know because it's such a great question. Because you never know until you see them next to others.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like when, you know, so many times I've usually when someone looks really, really good, like in the hotel room, it does show up on stage and you say like, oh yeah. It's even more impressive on stage.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's contrasts to what else is there. You know, who knows what level of conditioning other people are going to bring. And you know how it is. They could be super hard, but flat.
I know you can't predict anything, obviously, but the lineup is pretty much the Olympia minus Brandon Curry and minus Hany as well. Yeah. So, but you have the addition of Rami and whatever else. So I just, assuming everybody's in good shape, you see him in the top three. Like, I don't know what he looks like anymore with all the added size. That's why I'm hesitant to say top three, but the way he looks in some of his posts with the size he has, if he comes in with the same shape he had in New York, it's going to be hard to beat.
I don't know. You know, I think he looks really good.
Yeah.
And Cormier says he looks really good too. So I do this. Well, if I think he looks good and Cormier thinks he looks good, then he must look good. Because if I thought he looked good and no one else was seeing him, then maybe it's just me seeing improvements.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, because I asked Chris, I said, Chris, do you think he's big enough? You know, do you think he's big enough? And then Chris, oh yeah, he's big enough. I think you know, is the real condition there, Chris? Do you think? You know, because he's seen him in person, and he said, yeah, everything's right there. You know, he's there. So, you know, it'd be you know, interesting to see how it plays out. It plays out on the comparisons. That's what's exciting about it is, it's comparisons. It's almost like, before Rhoden won the Olympia, I remember did a preview for RX Muscle, and everyone's like, Phil. I'm like, fuck Phil. I said, did you think the judges? I said, let me tell you something. I mentioned Steve Weinberger by name.
Yeah.
I said, I don't think he really gives one crap who wins the Olympia.
Yeah.
Phil. I always told Shawn, if you give them something that's bewildering, you're going to win.
Yeah.
Because at a show like the Olympia or the Arnold, the last thing the judging panel, I think, for the most part, in 2020 wants is retribution.
Yeah.
Like they want to judge it so that it's like done.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no like, oh, Fouad got a gift and was, second, and he should have been eighth, or, this guy, so that it's just like, we had our show, you guys had your chances to come in. And I think you saw that like at the last couple Olympias where people pretty much place where, more or less, they pretty much deserved, so to speak.
Yeah, there's a couple things here and there, but for the most part.
There's always going to be. And even that, like, people ask me about how did so-and-so place at the Olympia, Patrick Moore.
Yeah.
Like there's, go through the list. I mean, top 5 are pretty good, Yeah. I mean, it's one thing and I always say this, I may be critical of judging with what is only my opinion, but I still have great respect for judges because for the most part, because I'd never want to do that. And I don't even, I'm not really that good. I'm really good at figuring out, like, is bodybuilder A better than B? And I can figure out A, B, C, and D. But when you get like 13 and everyone's in shape, if me and you were judging, first thing I'd be like, okay, I got Curry winning. Who else you got? Who do you got? Yeah. And I'd probably say, why? If we were judging, Manuel would hit me over the head and say, why are you talking to Fouad? I need advice. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
I think we should be able to break it down. We got to take a break. We got to take a break here.
By committee, yeah.
Yeah, by committee. And I think as a judge, I should be able to talk to get some advice from.
Let somebody talk you into your
whoever you chose. I can't make the decision. What do you think?
I have 2 more questions for you before you go, and I want to. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know you also like to just tell it how it is. So the first one's a little bit harder. Who is the client who gives you the most trouble or takes the most work mentally? And is it anybody people would know, or is it some obscure amateur that no one's ever heard?
Sammy Ghanem gives me more. He just won. He's qualified for the Olympia in the Classic, and he just won. Not Niagara, but whatever else was the Texas show. Yeah. And I'm guaranteed he's watching this at some point. He'll watch it. And I've told him anyway. I said, don't annoy me too much or else I just won't help you. I said, it's just not going to,
Why is he annoying you? Like he needs mental focus, or is it more like he needs reassurance, or just the diet he needs changed every day, or what is it?
He needs like, eat an apple. Green apple or red apple?
Oh no, not one of those guys.
Can I peel it? Can I peel it, coach? Or can I, just.
I know some of those guys.
You know what? I'm a macro guy, and economics is macro, micro, and I could give a crap. Google stock went down today. They had a bad, and Tesla went up 20%. I could care less about the daily fluctuations. I need to know, like, in the broader scope, what's going on. And that's how I do diets. I don't really care if you're flat today, full today, tight today, soft today, watery today, not holding water. I just need to have in my head over period, are you getting better?
But you make changes so often. Like, that was one of the things I realized about you is you're.
Yeah, I do tweak things. Yeah.
You make changes like on almost a daily basis sometimes.
Yeah, but you might not see those. Those might,
But you're saying they might reflect in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Unless you're Cedric.
Cedric's got to be a challenge.
Cedric told me once, I said, hey, keep your carbs low for like 3 days. And I said, hey, I said, see, you look better. And he said, yeah, but we don't know had I keep them the same, had I even looked better than I look today.
He's a mind fuck, man. You can't mess with Cedric. He's okay. The second question, coaches, who drives you fucking crazy the most out of all the coaches that are like just around, the coaches that are around, who they are?
They're all nuanced. George drove me crazy only because he talked negative about me and offered to, he will deny it and say that I don't know what you're talking about. But, Fouad comes off the stage and Chris is helping Fouad, and Fouad gets a close second. And, brother, you could have been fuller.
Yeah.
Of course you could have been fuller. Brother, you little flat.
Yeah.
If I help you, I give you magic diet to make you full and tight.
Yeah.
So, he's harmless to some degree, but, that's the only person I've tried to steal literally every single person.
You ever get mad at the client for leaving if they leave? Like, have you ever lost like a friendship? I mean, you seem like you're pretty friendly with your core clients.
Yeah. The people who leave, I'll forever give shit, but I always, they're leaving. Anyone who's working with another coach, there's got to be something there, which they never relate to you, right?
Yeah.
They always say something phony like, I'm going a different direction.
Yeah.
My answer is like, you mean you don't like winning or coming in? you don't like and like a stratospheric rise to the top, because that's kind of sort of seems like where we've been going.
Yeah.
I mean, that's happened.
Do you take 40% of their money?
I don't take a dime outside of what I charge them, and I don't expect a dime outside of what I charge them. I think it's, it goes back to Chris Aceto is not 212 Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
And Mr. Olympia. Kamala Gargny and Shawn Rhoden won those titles, or Jay Cutler won that title, or, whoever won, blah, 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 won titles.
Yeah.
And I mean that with every fiber of my being. And I don't like the idea. Well, I think I will not deny that I may have been instrumental in that success. But the idea that I'm the man, this is just, it's not in, it's weird.
Yeah. What, sorry, go ahead.
No, and that's my number one pet peeve with coaches.
Yeah.
If you ask me, I like to boast, to make fun of it. I'm really making fun of them. I'll say if it wasn't for me, Shawn Rhoden would be cooking, Jamaican patties in, at some resort in.
Yeah. What do you have to say to, I know you do the show with Dave over at RX, and I hear this all the time. I think mainly from Lee Priest, but about how, why do the guys have coaches and gurus, and it's ridiculous and everybody should coach themselves. I've always been of the belief that, man, even professional quarterbacks have quarterback coaches. So I was like, why are we doing trial and error, man? We should have a coach like everybody else.
It's the stupidest comment ever.
I'm in full agreement with you. Why do you think?
I could come up with a list of things.
Okay, fine. Let's leave.
Fouad, I went to a closing in October to buy a big building.
Yeah,
it's like impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought this with me.
Yeah,
a pen.
Yeah,
because my lawyer.
That's right.
Looked at a contract for 9 weeks.
Yeah,
and even in the contract it says, if I screw up in this contract somehow, and somebody makes a mistake, we can go back. I mean, why do people have coaches? Because they work and they're successful.
Mm-hmm.
But
sorry, I don't want to interrupt. Let's leave Lee out of it. Let's talk. I get this from like regular Joes every day. If you're a professional, why do you need a coach? That's what I hear all the time.
Because we talked about, there's this guy, he's a boxer. His name is Muhammad Ali. And he had this guy named Angelo Dundee in his corner.
Yeah.
And Angelo Dundee was his second set of eyes. Angelo Dundee was the guy who would know when his star athlete needs to step it up. Angelo Dundee would be the one who knows where he has to relax or step back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, the athlete has an awareness of his body. He's not stupid, and of course, the athlete, knows the fundamentals and basics and so forth. But in every sport that there is, a successful person has a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, my resume has all kinds of people on it. I didn't bamboozle those people. I've never approached one person in my life. Hey, John Smith, want to work with me?
Yeah.
Every single person, everyone always has approached me. They are approaching me, or they can approach another, and there's many, many good coaches because they think there's something to benefit them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not stupid. And, just because Shawn Ray did it, it's just, and Lee, and Dorian did it. Gaspari did it, so what?
Yeah.
Brandon didn't do it,
Yeah.
Neither did Shawn Rhoden do it. Neither did Phil, neither did Jay, neither did Ronnie.
Yeah.
So I think that poo-poos the idea that that there's no benefit to having a coach. I mean, Fouad, I'm very aware when it comes to a lot of things. I just take in a lot of stuff. I go to soccer games or football games with my kids playing, which I know nothing about the sport,
mm-hmm.
but I pay attention to the coaches.
Yeah.
And see what's going on. And I try to learn, there's always some common thread of, you can learn from a soccer coach.
Yeah.
You can learn something from a soccer coach. I come back from a lot of soccer games or soccer practices and think, gosh, this guy's smart, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He understands his athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that, Elon Musk asks people for advice.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And Elon Musk does not have hammers, and Steve Jobs couldn't fucking program, dude.
Yeah.
He didn't. He'd tell people, "I want this phone," and they'd say, "It can't be done." His whole job was to say, "Well, figure it all out."
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know what he was. I mean, he didn't know how. He was the visionary. He didn't know how to do what his people were doing.
Yeah.
I have a real estate company. I don't know how to change a lock on a door, and that is the truth. And I'm too lazy to learn.
Yeah.
But I know. So
I get it. Yeah, I get it. Last question before you go, since just because you've been around for so long, you've seen everybody come and go. The common thing now is to bash guys of the modern era and say that the guys in the 90s were the greatest.
Yeah.
Why, if people are right, why do you think they're right, and are they right?
That the bodybuilders in the
90s were better than the modern day bodybuilders. I mean, with coaches, is it distraction? Does it go back to distraction? Because that's what people are pointing to. Well, we got their phones and they're videotaping and this, and they're not training hard. And I think that's all bullshit, but I'd like to hear what you think about it.
I mean, are they better
than the guys from the 90s?
Yeah.
I personally don't think so. I think we're being shown photos from...
Well, let's put it this way. I love Lee Labrada.
Yeah.
He was pretty good. I love Rich Gaspari. He was pretty good.
Yeah.
I think Brandon would smoke those guys.
Yeah, that's my point.
So,
but they're talking more like if you put Kevin Levrone on stage at the previous Olympia that just went by, would he win?
No, he would not. Well, let's see. Levrone at his best. It's hard to take someone at their best.
Or the best Flex Wheeler. Does he beat
Phil? No.
Yeah.
No. Really, no.
Yeah. I don't think so either, personally.
I mean, let's take a fifth placer. Ramy. How would he do against
Nasser?
Yeah, he's big. I mean, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
Let's take Ramy and put him up against who do they mean in the 90s?
People are usually talking about the core guys in the 90s, like Dorian.
Well, the people are wrong on, people are generally wrong. That's another one of my, the stock market's through the roof right now is at its all-time high. It's probably a good time to sell because the collective wisdom of everybody is usually wrong.
Okay.
And to say that the guys are better in the 90s, I mean, who do they mean? I mean,
well, if you took the top 5 or 6 at any Olympia in the 90s, those are the guys they're talking about, really. Shawn Ray, Kevin Levrone, Chris Cormier, Flex Wheeler.
I think,
Yates,
Nasser,
these guys.
Yeah.
Marcus Rule. People bring up Marcus Rule a lot. They want to see Marcus Rule next to
Marcus Rule. Marcus Rule would be like last on conditioning.
Really?
From behind.
Yeah, from the back, I could probably see that.
You know what I mean? They'd kill him on the glutes and hams, because he didn't have any glutes and any hams, and
yeah.
I mean, people, I hear that. There was, I think what's different in the 90s is like what was different in the 80s, where everybody's bodies looked different. You can't tell me that, like, Bob Paris's body was different from Barry DeMay's body, very unique, different from Hany's body. Picture those, different from than the Brothers, or Mike Quinn, and then moving on to Flex Wheeler was totally different than like Cormier. Flex was actually smaller than Cormier, just smaller joints.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward up to where we are now, and I think people have more muscle, and it's more conditioned muscle. I just think things blend more in terms of, like, people don't have unique bells and whistles, which is a reason why when it peeled out of his mind, Rhoden shows up at the Olympia. It's so unique looking, right? It's almost like a throwback.
Yeah.
Or Cedric is a throwback, or like Patrick Moore. Why people get excited about Patrick, I think, is because it didn't look like people were used to seeing, where, the taper's not quite there as much. While the body fat's down, the water level's down, the deep separation is not there in the quads as much.
Yeah.
So I think people feel nostalgic over the 90s physiques because maybe they had not better conditioning, but the physiques looked different. Maybe that is pushing the envelope related. I don't know. What do you think?
I actually, that's my main thing that I tell people. It's not conditioning. I think we've gotten too big.
Yeah.
I think we've gotten too big. I think the physiques were definitely nicer looking. They're more streamlined. I'd say 94 and 95 backwards, probably, where there were nicer physiques then, but this is what they kept rewarding. They kept rewarding Ronnie. Ronnie would get bigger and they reward him. Ronnie would get bigger and they reward him. So everybody's just trying to keep up.
Well, so, Jay would say, truth be told, we were all better when we were smaller. That was a great quote.
Well, when I spoke to Jay, I said to him, I thought 2001 was the best look he ever had, in my opinion. Like, that was
stone.
To me, that was the best Jay Cutler. He's still, because I feel like everybody's, and this is just my own theory, but I feel like everybody's body has a limit.
It does.
Where
it does.
Once you break that limit, your stomach starts to grow and things start to look, and you kind of throw off everything.
Yeah. And then people start giving you advice is like, you got to go gluten-free because the stomach is, it's, well, you got no apples, applesauce. Yeah. It's the way that's bloating you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't eat, you got to eat deer meat, not cow red meat.
Yeah. I've heard it all. Trust me.
It's like, I'm pregnant. You know what I mean? It's like when you're pregnant, there's no going back. It's when the physique changes, and it does change, and it's unfortunate. And everyone, listen, it's one of the things on my mind all the time. And people who work with me will tell you, when it comes to, the mint juleps, as Samir would say, Chris is always like less is better. And it's not necessarily less is better, but if you lose you can get bigger, but if you lose the way the body's, the aesthetic, it don't matter how big you get. Yeah. And I'm thinking with Patrick Moore. Take your time, 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 take your time. I'm thinking with Sergio, take your time, take your time, take your time, take your time, take your time. Because I don't want to, I could, and I can tell you people that I've worked with that, and, I just don't want to say, but I can say, you would know right in your mind if I said it, like you could picture their physiques, in 2011 versus 2018, you say, oh, 2000, if I show you pictures in 11, you say, holy shit, if he showed up this way, said, it was 2 pounds less than he is now, but he's supposed to have more muscle now. And people think he's more freaky now. Yeah. But look at the difference. You said, oh God, the 11 look would destroy the 18 or 19 look. Yeah. And in my mind, I think, gosh, maybe we just pushed the envelope, you get sucked in.
Look, it happened to me. I'm the first person to tell people, like, I thought my best look was around 240, 245. When I got up to 255, 260, it didn't look as good. My obliques kind of grew out and waist got a little bit blockier, and the weight's got to go somewhere. Yeah. So, I agree with you about that point. The physiques looked better, even though the conditioning is good now. We're blurring all the lines with more muscle. So I don't know how to go back from that, though. I think guys have done a good job of bringing their waists down a bit, but I still don't see the separation that we used to have.
Yeah, you know what's funny is you say that is I'll give you a good example is and he probably placed where he deserved to place, but he could have been higher. And it's just last year at the Arnold, I was helping Luke, got third. Yep. And Raphael.
Great bodybuilder.
And they pulled Raphael. And Raphael, when he came out, I said, when you're watching the show and you're like, whoa, that looks better than I thought too. Wow. Yeah, wow. Yeah. It's like, whoa. Like the condition was so spot on, especially in relation to other people. Yep. And I thought, Jose was next to me, and Jose's my right-hand man. Yeah. Yeah. And I said, is he big enough? And Jose said, yes, he's big enough. He's shooing me off. Stop the nonsense. I said, I'm like, are you sure? I said, stop worrying about it. You stop thinking about it. Yeah. And I saw them, they gave him a great first call out, like close to like the, very close to, they had him in a better call out than Luke, meaning they had him close to Brandon and Bonac, who looked tremendous. Both of them looked tremendous. Yeah. And you could see, okay, Raphael doesn't have enough muscle. Front delt bicep, say, well, he, he holds, there's poses where, he looks right. You know what I mean? He doesn't look like the biggest up there, but in terms of detail, like very clean lines and like flow and small waist. And, that call out is like, wow, they're going to have him third or fourth. And then I'm like, he did start to flatten a little bit. Did he really? And I was like, yeah. And I said, God, I hope Steve speeds through this. Stop this prejudging. Get this over before, if he takes another look, I wonder how close another look. And he made another, like towards the end, they called him again, and then they gave him that, that shitty when they say, okay, Raphael and so switch, and they put him on the edge. Yeah. The point I'm making is, it is what it is. They said he's not big enough.
That's my point too.
The bottom line is they say he's not big enough. Yeah. And no, he's not, quote, big, but I think he's good enough, to place higher than that he's been placing in some shows.
Yeah.
And, you know, the concern is, you know, you get bigger and you say, God, remember that package I brought back in 2019? Look how good I looked then.
Yeah.
You know, but I was 16 pounds lighter, you know, and then people start doing, you got to hit your lat spread this way. No, my waist just got wider. It's not, it's, you know,
I know.
On the front double, sit on your abs. Like,
yeah. What do we do to go back to Raphael? Cause I think his physique is beautiful. Like he's got it everywhere. Did you freeze again? All right. Before we're having some technical difficulties. So I will let you go, Chris. We've been on for a while, but before you go, is there any message you want to portray to anybody out there who is kind of like, as a coach, is there any message you want to give anybody?
I am the number one guru. No.
All right.
You know, the message to bodybuilders is that this is a sport that, I mean, you can't rush things. And I am telling you now, when you try to rush things, it's like the investment that goes up quickly and then blows up and then you lose everything. It just takes a long time to build, you know, a good physique. And you got to be wary of people promising you the world, or you got to be wary of people telling you, you know, if you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to gain 20 pounds in, you know, 2 months. Someone just asked me, what if I take this? Can I gain 20? And I said, no. They said, how much should I expect to gain? I said, 2.
Yeah. Yeah. I try
and I said, and you won't notice it. And 3 of it will be covered with fat.
Yeah.
So you have to be really patient to build a quality physique. And you know, we're in the age of people pretend that they'll do anything it takes, meaning they say that and they'll do that until they do anything it takes, and which they don't really have to do. Mm-hmm. And they're misguided, and then they hurt themselves, they hurt their health, and they realize, you know, what have I done? Mm-hmm. And you know, it's I'm always looking out for the person. You know, I'm not 20, I'm 53, but even when I was 20, I was thinking, God, I might have to, you know, if I want to get big, I might have to do some things that I'm not sure I want to do.
Yeah.
And I, you know, looking back, I mean, I don't have any regrets or anything, and don't think that I would have been, you know, but I didn't do a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And just, you know, moved away from that. But people get caught up and they hear things, and they do things that they end up, you know, sooner or later, oftentimes regretting.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good message for people, especially with all the different YouTube videos out that are out now, kind of telling people they can do this in a week and that in a week and everything. So it's good to hear right from the one of the top gurus in the industry. I know you don't like being called a guru, but
no, that's right.
One of the top coaches in the industry that it's going to take time. So anyway, Chris, I appreciate you taking the time, man. Thank you very much for coming on. We didn't do any X's and O's talk. So maybe you'll come on again at a later date, and we can. You
can. I don't even know what the X's and O's are, but you can ask Sergio the X's and O's. I'm sure he can answer. Sergio can answer any subject, any question on any subject.
Is that true? All right.
Well, he's pretty. He's a jabba job.
All right. Well, we'll get him on. We'll get into it. But I appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you very much for the time, Chris.
Okay, welcome.
All right, brother. Bye bye.